Late night, I wanted to go ahead and put together a short video to go with this payroll projection article, mainly to just give folks a little bit of maybe understanding of some of the data behind the numbers and what it all means, and touch base with you guys on that. As a reminder, guys, let me put in some plugs first. First, if you would please like the video that will be go out on YouTube for this at the Larry the GM YouTube channel. You'll be able to have a link to it right here. I'll put the video right in the article. And also, guys, while you're at the YouTube page, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and comment on the video there, or any of the other Larry DM videos at the YouTube channel. While also on the website, larrythegm.com, read the content. I would highly recommend you jump over to the off-season outline here. You can see that in this article, linked right on the first paragraph. Follow that, bookmark it, be ready for updates. The updated content will show up in red on that outline, and use that as your guide through the off season, and I will be with you every step of the way. While on the Larry the GM website, if you haven't subscribed to the Larry GM website, please do so. And at the bottom of almost every article on the website, or in several places on the website, there are links to go to the Patreon channel, Patreon group, and join my Patreon group. $5 a month, and that'll help continue the content flowing to you and help us to do we work, and maybe even get to the point where we can start doing some marketing of the website and the YouTube channel. So, guys, that's what the asks are. Please help us out and help us to continue to try to deliver the content we have for you for over a couple of years now on the website. All right, let's talk about the payroll projection, and this has been something I have been warning this fan base about for almost a year, basically from the moment we signed Abreu and Montero. I've been talking about this looming, what I called at the time, payroll Armageddon in 2025. We revisited it briefly with the Verlander trade. No one really wanted to hear about payroll issues with regard to the Verlander trade because honestly, Astros did a pretty reasonable job of getting what they're paying Verlander is a reasonable price. So that's not really the problem. It's just that all the things coming together in 2025, but we got to get through 2024 first. So let's talk about that. And in here, I've got links to show an article I wrote last year about the CBT, how that system works, and more detail even at the bottom of this about the CBT, and a link to the CBT information at the MLB.com. But CBT is competitive balance threshold. It's a system that the MLB uses to keep payrolls, not a luxury tax, but in some ways you could make an argument it works the same way. Let's revisit briefly before we go forward the trades that happened with a significant financial impact in 2023. So you had the Verlander trade, and on the far right side of this, you've got the Astros net CBT payroll charge from that, which is about $13 million in 2024 and $23 million in 2025, which are talent of Verlander's level is a very reasonable price. And then the Graveman deal, where we will be paying about $8 million of his 2024 is his $8 million salary. So we talked previously in articles along, and again, if you go to that index, you see the link that we talked about the Astros free agents, and I listed 5 that are free agents and gave you the answers of what I thought would happen with those. I think the 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 player that's most likely to come back for the Astros is Neris. He has a $8.5 million option that will turn into a player option when he passes his physical. I haven't seen tonight if he did that. I didn't look for that particular detail. I know that that will be coming soon. So that $8.5 million number, I think that they may actually work a mutually agreeable extension for one more year in there. So though he is going to be in his age 35 year next year, if they can get both sides and they can agree at the 8.5 number for the 1 year, that would be the best for the Astros, and I'll show you why. Maton's a maybe, but it really depends on the price. Stanek is not likely. Maldonado's a no, and Brantley is going to retire. So that's what the status of those Astros free agents. Let's talk about another major element that we need to talk through is arbitration, and there'll be another arbitration article that went out this morning that you can link to right here. In the arbitration article, to summarize, I gave you the 7 Astros that are eligible for arbitration, what the likely arbitration number is, or at least an educated guess based on several metrics and algorithms that folks have deployed in the past. Let me get this light on to get this even a little better for everybody. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys. We'll there we go. Well, it's a little. We'll just go straight there. All right. So the payroll situation. So there's arbitration. So we've got 2 major elements: who the free agents are for the Astros, what the arbitration is. It's really important to understand this before we start talking forward. Now let's talk about, and this is, I'm going to feel like the Grinch that stole Christmas here a little bit. Everybody wants to open up new presents, and I'm not sure that the presents that you're going to be opening up are nearly as exciting as the presents you asked Santa for. And so this is a critical situation. Reminder that Altuve and Bregman are free agents after this season, and Tucker is a free agent after the 2025 season. Critical that you understand this. And we've been talking about a payroll challenge that was going to be coming around, that I see almost no scenario that you're going to keep all 3 of those. And I'll show you why number wise in a minute. Now, I know people are going to argue with me. They're going to say I'm crazy. They're going to say Jim Crane's got money. Guys, I'm just going to show you this is not real. And this is my opinion about what's going to happen. But in a lot of ways, I just feel it's like math. And if you really think that some of these numbers are going to be met, I just like, why do you think that? Because this franchise has never run a payroll to the levels that we're going to talk about. Both Roster Resource and Spotrac will validate something I'm about to say, and you just have to understand the way they present that. Let's look at the players that are currently under contract for 2024, and here's their salary. This is their payroll number, and this is their AAV, which is what's used for the CBT tax calculation. In 2024, these 11 players have $169 million of CBT payroll between them. In 2025, you're going to lose Neris and Gray, assuming that Neris and Graveman come off the books, and that you sign Bregman and Altuve. Again, they're free agents after this year. Now, the Astros could obviously, and Dana Brown has mentioned, he's going to work to sign them to an extension. Now, you may say, well, Altuve shouldn't get $28 million. I mean, he should get a lot less than that. Well, guys, he's making 29 in 2024. Are you really serious that you're going to go to the franchise player and tell him that he needs to drastically cut his salary? The problem is his CBT number is only 23.4. So if he signs a contract that's even a little bit less than he's making now, and say he's doing that for 3 or 4 years, that may be an acceptable deal, but it's going to raise the payroll from a CBT standpoint. Similar story for Bregman. Bregman makes $30.5 million. He will be paid $30.5 million in 2024. If you negotiate a deal with him and say, okay, for the next 4 or 5 years, we'll give you $29 million. That's actually a cut in what he's being paid. And that $29 million average AAV, average annual value, is a $9 million increase from where he's at right now. So between those two, you're adding $13.5 million or more, slightly more than that, $13.6 million, and those are assuming you're going to convince them to reduce their salaries from where they are in 2024. I'm not sure either one of those is necessarily true. They could just say, "Give me the same thing you've been paying me," and then we're adding another $2.5 million to that. So that's the situation with Bregman and Altuve, and understand that. Now, then you've got, so the total for all that would be if you include those two numbers I mentioned, 28 million for Altuve, 29 million for Bregman. You signed them to extensions starting in 2025 with those net AAV numbers. That would mean that those free agents, the nine players you would have under contract at that point, are going to make $175 million in 2025. Nine players out of a roster of 40 plus some more that will come on and off the 40 man. That is what that's where we can start seeing this is going to be where this is a challenge. Now let's talk about arbitration, because this seems to be where a lot of us get lost. And when we talk about numbers, like they'll say, well, this guy's coming off the books, this guy's coming off the books. Yes, but Framber Valdez is going to get a significant salary increase, and Kyle Tucker is going to get a significant salary increase because they are arbitration eligible players. They're going to be paid significantly more than what they were paid in 2023. So, I mean, I can go show that. Let me just quickly do this for you guys. Let's unhide this column. Kyle Tucker, Framber Valdez made $6.8 million on schedule to make 12.1. Kyle Tucker made about $5 million on schedule for 12.6. Jose Urquidy, 3 to 3.5. Mauricio Dubon, 1.4 to 3.1. But you can see that's again a pretty big jump up for Framber and Kyle on versus their 2023 number. So if you add these numbers for the arbitration eligible players, you're talking about $38.5 million for those arbitration eligible players in 2024. And because you add another group, without Tucker in the calculation, that is a $50.5 million for arbitration. As I told you, Tucker becomes a free agent after 2025. If this franchise wants to keep him, they should not allow him to go to free agency. If they extend Tucker, they're going to extend him at something close to a $28 million AAV number. You may not believe that. I'm just telling you that's going to be his market rate. That's literally what his WAR warrants his salary being. So if Kyle Tucker's making $28 million, then the arbitration players on this list, because Kyle Tucker would be an arbitration player in 2025, would be $78.5 million. Now, Kyle Tucker in this scenario would be an extension actually under contract at that point. The length of that contract is a whole nother issue that I don't really want to get into. I don't want to confuse you with too many numbers. But there's the arbitration numbers. Now, one important note I'll say about this and related to Kyle Tucker. If this team negotiates an extension for Kyle Tucker, the ideal time to do it, or the ideal timing for that, will be at the moment after or as part of a negotiation for what his 2024 salary will be. This team could agree to a number for Kyle Tucker somewhere close to a 12.6 to $13 million number for Kyle Tucker. Then they say, okay, now that we've agreed to that, let's give you an extension. So there's two different transactions, so that the 2024 number will be the 12.6 that I show here, as far as Kyle Tucker's AAV, and the 2024 number will be 12.6. Then they could actually sign Kyle Tucker to a $28 million AAV contract that may even have a signing bonus that he gets paid in 2024 when he signs the contract. and then the other years in the payroll are not quite $28 million. All right, so that's what's going to happen. Well, that's what could happen with Kyle Tucker if he signed a deal. All right, so now we're putting all these different numbers. I've given you the arbitration numbers. I've given you the contract numbers, and I've given you the returning free agent numbers for the Astros. Let's put it all together. Well, before we put it all together, we got to also remember in the CBT calculation, there's also another group of players. That's the pre-arb players. Pre-arbitration players, they estimate would be about $11 million for the Astros. Then there's about $2.5 million allocated for players that are actually playing in the minors that are on the 40-man roster, have major league deals, but are playing in the minors. About $2.5 million there. Another $17 million is allocated for player benefits. And then another $1.7 million is a payment that goes in the pool that was part of the CBA negotiation for the pre-arbitration bonus pool. All right, so that is those get added. So what you have here is this $195 million for AAV for the guaranteed contracts. Subtract the $26 million that Justin Verlander gets paid by the Mets. That's 169 I told you about before. Here's the 175 I told you about before. Here's the arbitration numbers, 38.5, 78.5. Then I've got these other numbers with some escalators for 25, and you are at, and this number includes a Neris 8.5 a number in for his option being assigned or accepted by both sides, whether it's the Astros if he fails a physical or if it's the player option being picked up by Neris. That number is right at $240 million. As a reminder, the CBT in 2024 is $237 million. Has anybody told you that this team is one transaction with Hector Neris away from already being over the CBT threshold? No, I don't hear that anywhere else in the press. I don't hear anybody else telling you that. But in 2024, this team, with the contracts and the arbitrations that they are going to they're going to tender arbitration for all those guys. That's in the arbitration article. That this team is going to be over to CBT. Now, just so we're clear, a $240 million payroll doesn't incur a huge CBT tax. So you may think, well, that's irrelevant. The bigger issue is because this team is over the tax in the tax threshold in 2024, that executes bigger tax rates in the next year. So, and that's all included in the CBT description. It's in the article I sent you to earlier in the article, or at the bottom of this, and where it's written out. So, what would happen in 2025, assuming we're over 2024, these numbers add up to $287 million. That would be not only over CBT1, not only over CBT2, that would be over CBT3. Each one of those has higher values of taxation that occurs with it. And each one of these overages is charged at a rate of tax rate, and it would end up with a $19 million tax, in addition to having a $287 million payroll, which means it'd be a $306 million overall net payroll for that team, which included Tucker, Altuve, and Bregman all being back. That's why I tell you, there's no way that they're going to run a $306 million payroll. It's just not going to happen. And you can disagree with me on that. And okay, that's fine. We'll disagree about that, and we'll see what happens. In addition to the tax, this team would lose 10 slots in the draft. The first draft pick would move back 10 slots. So if we're at, I don't know, we'd be at the 25th draft point right now. If we would end up being at the 35th pick in the draft. That's what's going to happen if we were getting that penalty this year. Obviously, that would be incurred for the 2025 draft. Actually, the 2026 draft after the 25 season. So there you go. That is the situation for the payroll. And now you may be saying, "Well, hell, Larry, I'm scared now. What do we do? What are we going to do?" So what I think this team is going to do is they're over the threshold. I see almost no scenario unless there's massive trades from this team, and we can talk about what those could be in a minute. I think this team is going to try to stay under the CBT2 threshold, which is 257 million in 2024. I believe that Jim Crane made a decision when he made the Verlander deal that he knew he was going over to CBT1 in 2023 or 2024, and I believe he knew he was going over to CBT2, which is 261 in 2025. I believe he knew he was going over CBT2. I think the goal in 24 will be to stay under CBT2, under 257 million, and the goal for 25 will be to stay under the 281 CBT3 threshold. Those, I think, will be the goals. Still massive payroll for this team. So what I believe that this team has, if we're at 240 right now, and the goals will stay under 257, I believe the team is going to have 12 to 13 million dollars that they're going to spend in free agents. So factor that in to whatever people are telling you about all these free agents, all these high-priced outfielders that they want to bring back. This team still needs to get a backup catcher, and I don't think that's going to be Martin Maldonado, by the way. I already said that in the beginning. So if we get a $2 or $3 million backup catcher, then we've got, $9 to $10 million to spend on an outfielder / pitcher that you want to bring. That's if you want 3 players. We're not talking about massive players when the total budget is $12 to $13 million. And the reason I take this step before I go shopping or before I make recommendations about free agents is I want to make sure I'm grounded at what is likely to be possible for this team. Now you can say, Larry, you're imposing limits that Jim Crane's not going to have. We can argue about that, but that you're basically telling me you think Jim Crane, who's never spent more than $240 million in his payroll, is going to run an effective payroll of $306 million. I don't see any sign of that. It's just not going to happen. And so I gave you a lot of details here. And basically it's a lot of what I've said. This is where the part where I'm talking about they're going to spend about $12 to $13 million. I believe that would be a target of right at $253 million for the payroll, which is about $4 million under the CBT, which gives them some flexibility at the trade deadline. That's what I think they're going to do. And so the other possibility, or the ramification is that to get under the CBT3 in 2025 is one of those 3, Tucker, Bregman, and Altuve. My priority order would be Altuve first, Bregman second, Tucker third, mainly because I can find outfielders. It's easier to find an outfielder. One of those 3 will not be signed. If you get it in your head that they're not going to sign Kyle Tucker, the likely result of that is they're going to trade Kyle Tucker before the 2024 season. I mean, after the 2024 season. So in postseason, as far as the end, they will do what they can with Kyle Tucker. They'll trade Kyle Tucker at that. Now, let's see a chat. Let me. Oh, I'm sorry. There it is. Now, Tony, I just got on here just a little bit ago. I just started it, so 25 minutes in. Urquidy and Valdez. are other possibilities of a trade for if they're not going to trade Tucker. If you say, Larry, we're going to bring these three players back, the other option could be that you trade both Urquidy and Valdez. This is probably more exciting to the Astros fan base. You could trade both those, and I actually think, I've been asked multiple times, Larry, if are the Astros going to trade anybody, and I'm telling you, I think they could trade Urquidy. And the reason for that, let me just show that real quick to you guys up here. So if the option is either you have a 2025 salary of $28 million for Kyle Tucker, or you have Framber Valdez and Jose Urquidy at $24 million in 2025. Well, maybe the answer is we'll take the extra four and we'll ride with Kyle Tucker and we'll take $24 million off the payroll by trading Framber Valdez and Jose Urquidy. Whether it's Tucker being traded or it's Valdez and Urquidy being traded, one of those has to happen after the 24 season, before the 25 season. So that's what we're looking for. And so that's a possibility. Executing either trade option still means the Astros are in a 272 to 276 CBT level, which will incur that CBT2 level. But like I told you, that gets them below the CBT3 threshold. 274, 276 brings in the 25 payroll right there. This is what I think we're headed for. And the reason I want to be clear about these things, guys, is that to do these things, we have to be very careful about the free agents we sign. Because even at a $274 million payroll, that's without signing any free agents. So maybe that's not even possible. So we'll have to look at that. I'll bring up the spreadsheet in a minute. So what do I say to the Astros fans right now? Stay focused on understanding, are the Astros trading? Who are they trading? Are they going to trade somebody? If so, do they trade Urquidy, who's a estimated $3.5 million? Do they trade Valdez, or do they trade Tucker? I don't think the Tucker trade happens before the season. I think it happens after the 24th season. I could see a Urquidy trade happening now. I don't think a Valdez trade happens because I think you'd be selling low on a Valdez. I believe the team will look for free agents that are going to take it into the $12 to $13 million payroll range for 24. If they can make those as one year deals, that will be preferable, because really the crisis occurs in 2025. So we're on the precipice of the payroll Armageddon that I wrote about over a year ago, and I've warned you about. Now every roster move, everything that Astros do, needs to be funneled through what is happening with the payroll, and that is probably the most important thing I need people to understand, that I don't think is being appreciated enough with most of the rumor mongers that are out there, or people trying to fill your head with free agents that this team's going to sign. This team is well, here's what I'll tell you guys. If this team goes out and signs $20 million players, they are telling you probably that they're not bringing Bregman back. Okay? Just understand the consequences of these actions are Tucker and Bregman. And if you think that we need to go for it and we need to sign all these players, then be prepared not to be at this point on this day next year to have me tell you the team's not going to bring Alex Bregman back. I think Jose Altuve is always going to be the first one back, and he's going to be signed to a long-term deal. But be careful what you wish for this year in free agency. So I know I have a spreadsheet for this. Let me check it real quick. So adding $13 million, trading. So let me make sure. Yep, I've got the free agent ad. So 276 would be including the $13 million ad. So that's a reasonable scenario. Signing if you trade Framber Valdez and Jose Urquidy, you then can bring in all three. To me, that's the best case scenario. But, you know, just understand you are cutting your pitching to be able to keep all these great position players. And so, and you're still running a $276 million payroll, which means you effectively are running a $289 million payroll. I don't know where Jim Crane's going to draw a limit, guys, but I believe the limit will be below the CBT 3 and 25 and below the CBT 2 and 24. All right, so that's where we're at. That's the payroll projections. It's a significant challenge for this team. I'll be glad to, if you're watching this video, you have questions, please leave them on the YouTube. We'll answer the questions there. If you have questions, if you're watching this on the Larry GM website related and with this article, please ask them there. We'll work through the questions, but really the most important thing to really get grounded on is the flexibility this team does not have relative to what you're being fed by most media sources. Okay, this team is one transaction, one option being picked up on Hector Neris from being over the CBT threshold. All right, that is the key, most important thing to consider. And so there will need to be trades. There'll be a Urquidy trade, and then a Valdez trade maybe after the season, after the 24 season, or a Tucker trade after the 24 season. These things need to be possible, or need to be considered as probable for this team to have long-term flexibility, payroll, long-term be able to be viable from a payroll standpoint, and that the options that they're going to pursue this offseason are in that 12, $13 million range, somewhere in there. So they got to get, and we'll talk more. The reason I wanted to do this first, that sets my budget. Then we'll compare what we need to get. We know we need to get a backup catcher. Probably need to get somebody in the outfield. May want to pursue some left-handed pitching, and we got to do all that for $12 to $13 million. That kind of sets our expectations of what transactions we're looking for. Okay, guys, that's where we're at. Let me know if you have questions. Please, again, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're close to 100 subscribers. If we make a push here over this off season, when Larry the GM season, we can get to 100 subscribers. That will be That will be big for the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Larry the GM website, and like the article on the website. Make comments in both the video and the article, and let's work through it together. We will be following the guide that hit the off-season outline. That's the very first link here. We will be following that. You can see we got payroll here. Talked about Dusty here. Talked about who will be back here. Talk about salary arbitration rules. We're back there. These are all a lot of those are incorporated into today's article. A lot more content coming. You can see all the different things we're going to talk about as we get through the calendar here on the Larry GM site. So please join us, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.